Hey, welcome back here to the Smoke Shack. Today you have Connor bringing you a special pairing. Today I have the J.C. Newman Julius Caesar, Crown Royal Julius Caesar here for you today. And I went on cigartv.com and asked Margarita, the AI special pairing that would go the best with this cigar. I gave them the option of all of the bourbons on the Buffalo Trace Distillery lineup, and I also gave them the options of using all of the Woodford Reserve because I just so happen to have all of them. So Margarita suggested that I use Eagle Rare 10-year, so that is exactly what I will be pairing with this cigar. Now I do have it over ice, so that might take some of that spiciness away, but hopefully it's going to bring out those aromatic coffee and other spicy flavors here in the cigar. So this cigar is, as I said, a J.C. Newman cigar. It is the Julius Caesar line, and the Vitola is a Corona 5.5 by 43. It is an Ecuadorian Havana wrapper, a Dominican binder, and Caribbean and Central American filler. Getting into this craftsmanship here, man, this just, wow, look at that wrapper. I mean, look at the band on that cigar. And when you look at the box, it's that really nice leather with purple, and it really just pops with that gold. This is just a class act here by J.C. Newman. Presentation is an absolute perfect 10 out of 10. However, the construction is an 8 out of 10. I bought this recently down in Tampa, Florida, and the foot is slightly smashed there, and it's kind of hard and bumpy in places, so we're going to see how that affects the burn. However, the Keller is a 9 out of 10. This looks really nice. There's a lot of teeth on this cigar. Very veiny cigar. You know, it's kind of matte, but there also looks like there's oil hidden in there too. So this should taste really good. Now this Vitola here, it is not my absolute favorite. I kind of like a Robusto. I did pick this out, so I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because that was my choice in the selection. So I'm going to go ahead, cut this, get some dry draws, and then fire this up for you here. So on the dry draw, I'm getting a very interesting earthy spice. Maybe a little bit of raisin in there. And the aroma I'm getting off of the cigar here is very raisiny and earthy. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this up. That is really good. That is really peppery, but not overpowering. As you can see, there's already a nice blue hue coming off the toe of that cigar. There's some coffee in there and some cocoa. And let's see what we get if we pair this here with that Eagle Rare 10-year. Wow, that really makes the spice factor explode in your mouth. That is very tasty. Absolute excellent recommendation there from Margarita on the Cigar TV AI. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead, smoke this down through the first third, and I will come back and give you my thoughts on the first third. Hey, bringing you back in here for my thoughts on the first third. So overall, the flavor profile scored pretty darn high for this cigar, as I expected, and this is not my first time having this cigar. I do really enjoy this cigar. I have the intensity out an 8 out of 10. However, on the mild to full scale, it's sitting right in the middle at a perfect 5. It just kicks off and it's nice and strong, but it's not overpowering. The enjoyability factor here, I have it as a 9 out of 10. It's a nice spicy cigar, but it's not like, the most spicy thing. It's not like you just bit into a habanero pepper and you're sitting here smoking a habanero pepper. It's a nice mild spice factor that really mellows off at the end. The complexity here, I got it about an 8 out of 10. I'm getting hints of spice, but there's kind of like a cocoa powder in there, and you can really taste the minerals in this cigar. It did just ash itself right before I cut back in here. The ash is really nice and white, and I'm getting a lot of that minerally flavor here, along with some leather. But the finish, I have the finish at a nice 8 out of 10. As I said, it's spicy, but it's not, wow, this is spicy. It's just a nice, smooth spice. However, the burn performance kind of takes a hit here on this cigar. The draw is a 7 out of 10. I am really having to pull on it. It is kind of tight, but it's not overly tight. By the third puff, as you see there, it really does kind of start to cloud up and give you that nice choo-choo train smoke cloud that you're looking for. And same with the consistency, 7 out of 10. Combustion, I have it at a 7 out of 10. It was slightly canoeing there, as you can see. It's quite wavy. In fact, I was actually thinking I was going to have to touch this cigar up. I do think that's because the toe was kind of flattened out and there were some bumps in this cigar. You know, I think that if I had a different cigar, that score would go up, but we're rating this cigar. So, combustion is a 7 out of 10. The ash structure, however, was perfect. 9 out of 10, just slightly flaky there. The ash color, though, it was sort of darkish gray on the top, but it really did start to get white. So I have that at an 8 out of 10. I think that is going to go up. I'm looking for that number to go up as I get into the second third here. The resting smoke is a 6 out of 10. There's just not a lot. There's not a lot of resting smoke on this cigar. And I almost feel like I have to keep pulling on this or this is going to go out. The drawing smoke is a 7 out of 10. I really have to pull to get that cloud of smoke. The mouthfeel is an 8 out of 10. I am not adverse to a little spice in my cigar. However, the temperature was kind of hot on that first third, giving the temperature score a 7 out of 10. However, the aroma on this cigar is really nice. There's just kind of like a hint of spice but leather, and it's earthy. It's a nice balanced, well blended cigar for that first third here. The overall score for the first third is a pretty decent 8.23. So let's see how this cigar evolves. I'm going to continue pairing it with the Eagle Rare 10 year from Buffalo Trace, and I will come back with my thoughts on the second third. Hey, welcome back here for the second third. So the second third, it does turn over. I'm getting a strong nutty flavor, which is really quite nice. That spiciness has died off, but it does get kind of musky with hints of leather in here. As I mentioned, that spice really does die off. So the flavor profile score really hasn't changed at all for me. However, the burn performance does slightly take a knock here at the combustion level. I was looking for that to even itself out, and as you can see, it really has not. The ash structure is a 6 out of 10. It looks flaky. It looks like it's going to fall off at any second. And I did bring you back in here slightly early just because I did want to get an ash structure on the camera. However, the ash color, like I was looking for it to pick up, it did not. It actually stayed the same. You know, it's white, but it's slightly gray. And I feel like the end of the first third, it was much more white. So where does this cigar take a hit? Because it does. The resting smoke and the smoke assessment. There is 0 resting smoke on this cigar. As I mentioned in the first third, I feel like I have to continuously pull on it to keep this thing lit. And the drawing smoke, not consistent there for me. The mouthfeel also takes a slight hit. It drops down 1 point to a 7 out of 10. You know, it leaves like a musky aroma there, and that spice is no longer there. I do have to pull on this so it doesn't go out. But when there is resting smoke, it's also kind of coming out of the cap and it's all over the place. Just not a great resting smoke there. Temperature is a 6 out of 10. It was pretty inconsistent. At the beginning of the second third there, it was really quite warm on the palate, but it has cooled off here again. But the aroma in the room, it is a really nice aroma. It's barnyard, but it's not all barnyard. It's not like you walked into a cow pasture, you know. There's just this nice kind of like, you're almost in a walk in the like swamp or something. It's a really interesting smell on the aroma. So this second third did drop down slightly from an 8.23 to a 8.12. So I'm gonna go ahead, take this band off. I'm gonna smoke this cigar down, and I'm gonna come back in with my thoughts on the final third and give you the overall rating on the J.C. Newman Julius Caeser cigar here. Hey, bringing you back in here for my thoughts on the final third, and I'm going to go ahead and give you my overall score. So this cigar actually really did pick up on the final third of the cigar here. The flavor profile absolutely turned over. This cigar really picked up on the coffee notes and the caramel notes, and it had a really smooth finish. I really enjoyed the mouthfeel and the finish on the final third here. As I mentioned, there was a really nice sweet note of caramel in there that I almost wish was throughout the entire cigar. The notes of leather kind of died away too. There was almost no spice on this final third, and that is absolutely not a knock on the cigar at all. The leather did die away there, and the coffee notes really picked up. It was almost like a really smooth cream coffee, and I was thinking that I was starting to get some floral notes in there as well. So the flavor profile did tick up slightly in the score. The enjoyability went from a 9 to a 10. The intensity did pick up here as well. Overall, I have the cigar at a medium to full at a 7 out of 10 on the intensity and the strength. I did think this cigar got more complex in the final third. I ticked that up to a 9, and the finish also was much more smooth on the mouth, giving that also a bump up to a 9. Now, the biggest improvement on this cigar came in the burn performance and the smoke assessment. So the draw did improve here, as well as the consistency. Every pull in the final third was absolutely perfect, and the ash structure and color did improve here as well. The final third, it almost did not ash at all, and the ash color did improve. It was still slightly gray, however, it was very white. And the gray was kind of where that vein was running through the final third. The biggest improvement on the final third was the smoke assessment. The resting smoke did not improve, it was not there, but the drawing smoke really did improve. It was very clear, very white smoke, and the mouthfeel improved as well to an 8. As well as the temperature. I had the temperature at a 6 out of 10 on the second third, but it improved to an 8 out of 10 on the final third. It really did cool off there, and the aroma stayed a 10 out of 10 throughout this entire cigar. So, as I mentioned, this cigar did improve, and it shows in the score on the final third at a nice 9.03. Running through my thirds again, first third 8.23. Second third dropped down to an 8.12, but really ticked back up there for a nice finish at a 9.03. My craftsmanship score on this cigar was a 1.79. It was slightly bumpy, and that foot was slightly smashed. However, it didn't ruin the cigar for me, bringing my final score for the J.C. Newman Julius Caeser cigar to a very respectable 8.46. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. Please go over to Rumble and check out our channel on Rumble. We are the Smoke Shack Pod on Rumble and the Smoke Shack Cigars on YouTube. We really appreciate all the likes and support. We're on a chase to get to 250 subscribers. When we do hit that mark, we're in talks of what our giveaway or something there will be to celebrate that milestone. Thanks again for all the support, and check us out next time on the Smoke Shack.